Day one saw the rally start in Valence, then came 6 stages through mountainous terrain, 170 kilometres in all. Tyre choice here was going to be critical. They came in their thousands, the whiff of hot coffee and croissants in the air, as the French got behind their most fancied driver, François Delacour, now with a new female co-driver, French champion Catherine François in the Ford. Would it be encore une fois for François? He felt he'd made the wrong tyre choice on stage one, but it made for spectacular viewing. And what of the other great Gallic hope? World champion Didier Auriol in the Toyota has won in Monte Carlo 3 times, but now he was having teething problems with the new shaped Celica. After 4 stages, a disappointing 4th.
Droite 5 plus sur gauche à fond. Droite 5 plus sur gauche à fond. Droite à fond, gauche 62, humide. 62 rochers humides.
Elsewhere, the long arm of the gendarmerie was clearing the path for Spaniard Carlo in the Subaru. He was quick on stage 1, even quicker on stage 2. Sainz went into the lead, a fighting start to the new season after losing the title to Auriol last year. Enough snow around to remind the Scandinavians of home, but Finland's Juha Kankkunen wasn't 100% happy with his Toyota's engine. On a day when thermals were de rigueur in the mountains, Kankkunen was warm enough in his cockpit. He told reporters he was having fun. Another Finn who ought to have enjoyed the snow was Tommi Mäkinen in the Mitsubishi. He began well enough in these wintry conditions, but then it was a case of quick, snow. Mäkinen stayed ice cool. He didn't really have much choice. Tommi was lying second after 4 stages, despite the worsening conditions. Belgium's Bruno Tyre was one of last season's most improved drivers. In the second of the Fords, a joint effort with the RAS rally team, Tyre was having his work cut out to keep pace with his Ford teammate Delacour. Colin McRae in the Subaru was again making the headlines for the wrong reasons. He hit a snowbank, losing 2.5 minutes on stage 2 after recording the fastest time on stage 1. It was a Jekyll and Hyde performance from McRae. After his mishap, he played catch-up for the rest of the day, and he did it pretty quickly, as his speedometer shows. He was quickest on stage 5, despite having to use last year's notes, but it still left him some way behind the leading pack. Toyota's new boy Armin Schwartz was struggling in the snow.
Immediate caution, overcrest, right 5 minus, ice, 80 junction, double caution, left 2, narrow. Left 2 narrow on telephone box.
Like many other drivers, he was increasingly concerned about the new tyre regulations.
We are pushed to take some choices which are for sure not right for this condition, but I mean, everybody has the same things on the car and it makes it not easy. It's always a compromise. Except the first stage this morning, I think we had too hard tyre. Otherwise it was fine.
On the last stage, a lot of snow and deep snow, wet and humid. And after 2 kilometers of ice in the descent, it was very difficult with this sort of tire because I went in the stage through the stage with T00. It means tire without studs. Then it was very difficult. And everybody was with a stud tire, only me with a racing tire. But now on the next stage, you have to keep the same tire, then I will get the right tire, the right choice of tire, because the next stage is completely humid, 60 kilometers, and I think I can go much faster than everybody on the next stage.
So this is how crucial tyre choice is. In the top half of the picture is the Ford of François Delacour using racing tyres. The bottom half shows the other Ford of teammate Bruno Thierry, who's chosen studded snow tyres, the correct choice for the previous stage. On the straight, as you can see, they're neck and neck. But when they reach this corner, Delacour has an immediate grip advantage. He pulls away and gains 2 seconds on the exit. Over the next few hundred metres, he continues to increase his advantage to 4 seconds. On this rally, it's easy to see why tyre choice has become one of the major talking points. Over a 16-kilometre stage, this example gave Delacour a 40-second advantage. The third Subaru was driven here by the Italian Piero Liati. He made a clean start, much to Subaru's delight, after McRae's mountain mishap. Another Italian tarmac specialist was Andrea Aghini in the second Mitsubishi. But he found the ice and snow not to his liking. There was much French delight at the performance of the new kit car Renault Clios. These 2-litre, two-wheel drive monsters were really flying. The Clios were driven by veteran Jean Ragnotti and Philippe Bugalski, an impressive debut, but clearly the cars more suited to the tarmac than the ice and snow of the Ardèche Mountains. Time for a breather in the town of La Louvesque. When the world's oldest and most famous rally passes by, there are commercial spin-offs, even of the edible kind. The weather began to worsen as the final stages of the day began. Finland's Juha Kankkunen was in 5th spot. It hadn't really been a convincing start by Toyota. Teammate Didier Auriol was lying 4th as rain now swept across the mountains. There was some concern in the Toyota camp about engine performance, particularly on the uphill sections. The Mitsubishi of Tommi Mäkinen, despite some slip-sliding on the snow, was 18 seconds ahead of Auriol in 3rd spot. It had been an outstanding first day for him. The rain didn't dampen French enthusiasm for François Delacour. He responded in style. He powered his way around the last stage, taking 14 seconds off leader Carlos Sainz. The Spaniard, though, could be more than satisfied with his day's work. It had been a difficult drive in constantly changing weather conditions.
How have things gone for you today?
Obviously not so bad. I will say the conditions were quite difficult and we haven't had any problem with the car, we haven't had any problem with the tires, everything was working okay.
Colin, are you satisfied with how things have gone today?
Yeah, it's gone okay apart from stage 2, which was my mistake, so I can't really complain.
Can you tell us again just what happened there?
We just slid off very, very slowly on a 3rd gear corner into the snowbank, and the spectators came to push us back, and instead of, I just quickly selected what I thought was reverse, but I'd actually put it back into 1st gear, so they were trying to push me back, and I was obviously, the car was trying to go forward, so it took over a minute to realise what had happened, because it was so easy to come back. I couldn't understand why the car still wasn't coming back, but once we put it in reverse gear it came straight back, but 2 minutes later.
This is how the first day shaped up. Sainz with a 44-second lead over Delacour in the Ford. Then Mäkkinen's Mitsubishi, the two Toyotas of Oriol and Kankkunen, and Bruno Thierry of Belgium.
The second leg of the rally headed south through the mountains for a gruelling 6 stages. An overnight halt at Dean, and then the sting in the tail. 3 stages to Monte Carlo. This is probably the most majestic backdrop to any rally in the world. But, as always, the picture postcard Alpine passes packed a menacing punch. It was time for a French offensive, and Didier Auriol was determined to drive himself back into contention, sometimes a little too determined. Kankkunen was faring little better, still not making an impression on the leading 3. The power problems were still not resolved. To add to the Toyota gloom, Armin Schwartz was having his own share of misfortune. A bump here almost took off his whole back wheel and damaged his suspension. The new rules meant no help at hand, so it was a long, difficult drive with an unstable car. The reigning world champions weren't having much luck.
Well, for the moment, we don't seem to have any strong points. We are not featuring very well here at the moment. We have to go back home and have a look on the situation. I mean, I hope the season will be competitive. I hope that we can be more competitive than we are right now here. And, I mean, the more teams you have that can really fight for the first place, the more interesting rallying will become. And I think this is what we all want.
For Subaru, it was a different story. Carlos Sainz was still leading as the rally threaded its way through snowbound villages.
Abrirse uno frenando, izquierda buena corta de Thierry, se abre. Abrirse uno, izquierda acá se cierra. A la derecha calenta corta de tierra, uno. Por izquierda, frenando, izquierda buena poco posible, tercera pasta. Cesar mucho, para derecha calenta de tierra, ras.
Colin McRae, after a miserable Monday, was having a tolerable Tuesday. He made steady progress up the field to regain a place in the top 10. Subaru's third driver completed a happy picture for them. Italy's Piero Leati was also handily placed in the top 10. Despite the complexity of the new tyre regulations, Subaru were making the best of things. It was definitely a case of so far, so good.
The next 2 stages, you've got different conditions, so obviously you're going to compromise on that. What are you going to put on?
Well, it seems that the first stage is almost completely ice, and then the next stage is 32 kilometers of dry asphalt. So and we're not allowed any fresh tyres between the stages, so I think the drivers will have to drive with studded tyres on the first stage, or a wide studded tyre. They'll take 2 tyres with them in the car in the boot, and they'll use those on the second stage on the front, which is it takes the most punishment on the car. So that'll be a dry asphalt tyre.
The controversial new servicing rules meant that Francois Delacour and his co-driver Catherine Francois in the Ford Escort had to become their own mechanics. They were not amused by the task of removing nearly 200 studs per tyre to help to cope with the dry conditions.
You cannot be concentrated on a 40-kilometer stage and after to do 30-minute mechanics. I change the brake, the front brake. I remove also the studs on the tyre. Then normally you have 30 minutes to be relaxed and to have some rest, and you have to do some mechanics. Then this is really stupid. I have nothing to say.
Meanwhile, the other Ford of Bruno Thierry was certainly getting to grips with this tarmac stage. But just when a rally seems to be moving smoothly, a snowdrift gets in the way. Bruno met his here, and he needed the helping hands of the French fans. Andrea Aghini was taking time to get used to his Mitsubishi. In contrast, Tommy Mäkinen was the surprise package. His tarmac experience in Britain had certainly improved his confidence.
You're in third place at the moment, and I think you've caught back a little bit of time on Carlos. Do you think you can get in front of him?
It's still a long way to go. We will see what happened. I will try to do my best.
Another surprise, the two kit car Renault Clios. They were still going strong and delighting the French supporters. Their pace and their road-holding capabilities meant they were both in the top 10. And they were snapping at the heels of the four-wheel drive cars as night fell on the rally. The almost sinister sister on stage has unhappy memories for many Monte Carlo contestants, including Carlos Sainz. Now the luckless Colin McRae was about to become another famous victim. He was lucky to escape unscathed, as he brought a new meaning to the phrase pole position.
About 10 k's into the sister on stage, on the notes we had patchy ice marked on one left-hander, fairly quick, maybe fifth gear. But the problem is the gravel crew or the ice note crew go over 3 hours before. So you could see the two tracks, but the two tracks by that time were black ice. So we obviously backed off when we heard the caution for the ice, but it just wasn't enough, and the car just slid to the outside of the road and off the bank. And that was it, stuck.
And you parked it neatly next to your teammate?
Well, Leati was parked about maybe no more than 15 metres in front of us. It was incredible.
Dawn in the mountains, and the drivers were refreshed by a few hours' sleep. In Group N, the leader was a Swiss driver, Philippe Camandona, in a Ford. Not far behind in Group N, the leading ladies, Isolde Holderried and Tina Turner. The Clio challenge was rock solid. This was John Ragnotti racing through the dawn. Armin Sports was dazzling everyone in his Toyota as he held 8th position. Aghini in 7th was entertaining the crowd with some Italian-style cornering. Bruno Thierry was 6th in his Ford as the rally headed down to Monte Carlo. Reigning world champion Didier Auriol can't have been pleased with his rally. Still only 5th, with time running out. The French fans used every vantage spot to watch Kankkunen, but 4th place was not up to his usual high standards. Tommy Mäkinen in the Mitsubishi was going well and glowing well. 3rd position after a magnificent rally. Francois Delacour was now 2nd, having briefly snatched a lead on the dawn stages. A real battle now, with Sainz just 12 seconds ahead. And it was the Spaniard who led the rally down from the mountains into Monte Carlo at the end of the second leg. So a confident Sainz dropped anchor in Monte Carlo harbour.
With a 12-second advantage over Francois, what are your tactics tonight?
Try to beat him, if I can.
I remember it's exactly the same scenario than 91. Carlos was 9 seconds in front of me, but in 91 he didn't know the special stage in the south like me. Now I think it's completely different. He knows very well also the stage like me. Then I cannot say nothing. It's very difficult to know.
Try to concentrate as carefully and as possible, and keep going with the same speed.
This then was the position at the end of the second leg. The Subaru of Sainz just 12 seconds ahead of Delacour in the Ford, then Mäkinen in the Mitsubishi and the two Toyotas of Kankkunen and Oriol.
And so on to leg 3. Plenty of ice, plenty to play for on the final night. So easy to make mistakes. 10 o'clock in the famous Casino Square. A long night lay ahead. So it was make or break for Delacour. He had to get every ounce of power from his Ford to catch Sainz. But his challenge was soon faltering. On the opening stages, a new but faulty shock absorber slowed him down. It was the kind of luck he didn't need. He lost valuable time. It effectively robbed him of any chance of victory. Over the Col de Torini, Sainz was pressing home his advantage. But the night wasn't without its problems for the rally leader. An electrical fault almost left him in the dark and out of the rally. It was an anxious time in the Spanish Subaru.
It's a long story, and everything started with a black cat crossing the road 1 kilometer before they switched off the car. All of a sudden, the lights went off in the car, and the car stopped. The main switch came off. Carlos tried to put it back again after 5 or 10 seconds when we realized what was going on. And then he tried to put it again, we start, but it was coming off again. So then I have to lose my seatbelt a bit and push there, and it was bent during 15 kilometers in the States, trying to read the pace notes. It was not so easy. Carlos was all the time asking me, is it okay, Luis, is it okay? And I said, Carlos, the faster you get to the end, the better it will be for me, so please hurry.
The Col de Torini was Toyota's graveyard. Juha Kankkunen was definitely in the wars. Under the new regulations restricting servicing, both he and co-driver Nicky Grist had to make running repairs. It wasn't Toyota's night. Oriol crashed out on the Torini, and here Armin Schwartz's engine decided enough was enough. It wasn't Monte Carlo, it was bust. With everyone else having problems, now was the chance for Tommi Mäkinen to mount his challenge for the lead.
120, oikein nopea, heti vaseneri aukeaa.
But he had his nightmares too. His Mitsubishi was effectively reduced to two-wheel drive, allowing Kankkunen to sneak into 3rd spot.
Tommy, the mechanics are working hard on the car. What have they been doing?
It seems that they can't do anything. It's something else, something wrong in gearbox, and we can't change it.
With the night fires burning on a bitterly cold night, Tyre warmed his fans with a more reliable drive, finishing 5th. So with 2 Fords in the top 5, the Blue Oval team led the Manufacturers' Championship with 47 points after the first round. But there was no stopping Carlos Sainz in the Subaru. His 2nd Monte Carlo victory, his team's first, and an impressive start to his 1995 World Championship campaign. Victory then for Sainz and Subaru by 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Ford's Delacour in 2nd position, then Kankkunen a fortunate 3rd.
Yeah, I must say, I mean, that was quite a lucky 3rd place as well, but we tried what we could, and finally managed to come 3rd, but okay, not bad, but not very good.
I think everybody has to remember that 8 months ago I had a big accident, a big crash, and at this time nobody was thinking that it was possible for me to go back again in rally. And I finished second in Monte Carlo.
Francois was pushing very hard since the beginning of the rally, and we have been very close the whole event. And just at the end today in the 3rd stage, when he has a problem, then it was a bit more relaxed. At that moment we were nearly half a minute, but of course it's better to have a bit more.
So the Black Cat didn't, after all, bring bad luck to Subaru and their #1 driver Carlos Sainz. Since then, victory in the Portuguese rally now means he leads the World Championship after 3 rounds.